high school. Rob and Ike's son wrestling against each other.
I only miss good things about Rob. It's okay.
See how those things go, and I'm thankful that we had Rob as a member of our club. Jim Temple.
Give me the disc.
Jim Temple is again from an era there where it's hard to find some silly stories and stuff, and I really don't want to talk about Jim that way. I don't think Jim ever missed a practice. That team, which had Fitz's brother Chili, Jim Temple, and the crazy New Yorker Jim Morris in the front row, may have been the best front row we've ever had at UB. In fact, we played UConn, and their coach, who was a big-time front row guy, Steve Leach, he said he's never seen a collegiate front row as good as these guys were, and these guys were dedicated and worked hard at it. And Jim, funny how he's got this intellect, but I used to own that red jacket he's wearing right there. And, really. And so he'd see me in that thing and he'd go, boy, that would look really good on me. And or actually he said it would look better on me than it does on you. And so there's a little going away party when Jim graduated. We kind of gave it to him, and 15 years later he's coming back here and it looks brand new.
Dark Duck.
How old is it? It's 20 years old at least. I got it from my sister when she was down in Houston. It's the University of Houston jacket. So, but one story about Jim.
It's a girl's jacket.
My sister. It does look better on him, doesn't it? One story about Jim. We had played, I believe it was Army in the Final Four at UMass, and lost pretty good to UMass. And the next day in the consolation game that didn't matter, we had to play Cornell. And we had beat Cornell during the regular season, and then just the previous week beat them in the New York State playoffs. So having lost a hard battle with Army on Saturday, it was very anticlimactic to have to play West Point or Cornell on Sunday. And the guys kind of went out and had a couple beers and didn't prepare themselves properly, and we lost to Cornell. And it had just a lousy taste in our mouth because we took them hard 2 times, already, and now this game that didn't matter but did, and now they got ranked higher us in the New York Northeast and all that. So left a bad taste. Well, the next year or 2 years later, we're in a similar situation. We lose a very close match at the end of the match by a point or 2 to Dartmouth, and the next day we have to play Cornell again. And so the guys are debating tanking the game, and I'm like, guys, we've been down this road. My advice to you would be to stay in and not drink. And Jim happened to be there, and I said, Jim, what do you think we should do? And he said, I'd be drinking already. Thanks, Jim. Mr. Murphy, sometimes known as Father Murphy. Murph and I have known each other since we were young guys. All the story about Little League football and stuff was true. We did play the Stingray Americans or whatever the hell they called themselves. They gave us rides home. Murph and I have been together a long time. We actually went to Boston and played Little League football in Boston on a road trip, and our junior year in high school, Lancaster Depew, Murph returned a punt for 65 yards that won the game for Depew. I mean, outstanding athlete. He was ranked punt return and kickoff return at Rockport. He was ranked 3rd in the nation as a punt returner. But he was even better rugby player. And it was always a pleasure to play with Murph. I remember. Particularly when we played Tullamore, Ireland here, and getting to play centers next to each other, and what a lot of fun that was, a great experience. To be with Murph. One kind of silly, stupid story about Murph. We were at a party in high school, and we kind of drank that same drink that he had here, the MD 2020 in excess, because that was the cheap way out. And we got to
Bob State.
This guy that had the party used to have people from all over, different towns and stuff there. And we're at this party, and there was a couple guys that were being jerks. we weren't brawlers by any stretch of the imagination. We weren't troublemakers. We didn't look for fights. We never did that. But
Bullshit.
yeah.
Bullshit.
So anyway, something's going on that night. Murph's got a little, bug up his crawl, and he didn't like one guy's shirt, and something like that. I don't remember. So anyway, all of a sudden there's this commotion going on. I look over, and Murph is pretty drunk, and he goes to throw a punch at the guy, and he misses completely. And it's like slow motion, Next thing you know, he's on the ground, and the guy's looking like, what the hell was that? Next thing I look down, and Murph's got the guy's leg. True story. So we kind of got in a little brawl that night, but it was so we kind of, as parties would be, the police are getting called and all that, so everybody runs away, right? So we got back to Brian's house, and we're, nobody got beat up or anything. We're just kind of licking our wounds and wondering what the hell happened. And all of a sudden, where's Murph? Where's Murph? Oh shit, we left Murph. All right, saddle him up. Let's head back. So we go back to this party. And, it was nobody's there. There's nobody at the party. We go into the basement, and Murph's kind of like sitting in a chair with a glass in his hand and singing some Irish song. Lads, you didn't forget me, It's like, so, again, to be able to grow up and have friends and play rugby together and go through high school sports, it's been a pleasure. And just a couple things and I'm done. So, my first rugby game, I want to tell you the story. I played for Brockport, and we played up in against Mike's team, the Creamers, up in Genesee in March, and it was snowing and wet rain, and I played in the B game, and of course back then, and still the A game played, and all those people, because it's so cold, kind of leave, and then you're left there by yourself. So there's 15 on 15 with a referee. So I used to wear cut-off jeans, because we really didn't have rugby shorts like you do now. Only one or two guys had rugby shorts. I used to wear cut-off jeans, and I never wore any underwear underneath. This is a true story. So at one point in the game, the rugby ball is on the ground.
Daddy?
And I kind of go to get it, and this guy from Rockport kicks it, and it hits me right in the gonads. And then, just like a nightmare, there's lightning bolts going off in my head. So I'm down on the ground, and it's 35 degrees out, and I'm laying there, and I'm like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? And realizing nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares about me. Then I realized, well, what are they going to do? Come over and hold my junk for me? But here's the story, and here's the rugby part of it. I had two choices: leave or go back and play. The game never stopped. I got back up and got back in the game and played. So it was kind of this learning thing about rugby, about how cool it was, because if you want to play it, it's there for you to play. My second rugby game was at Buff State, and just a quick sidebar on this. And that was, I played scrum half that game against Franz, and Franz and I have been longtime friends, and it was kind of cool to play that. So after the game, we go to a party, and I met Sue Gannan, Brian's wife, at that party with some friends. And the next year, I went to Buff State, and of course now, 30-some years later, we're all still good friends, and it's kind of fun and amazing. The other thing, we did use leather balls back then. That's the only kind of rugby balls they were. They were heavy leather balls, and when they got wet, they got heavier. And when you tried to kick them, they were difficult to kick. There were no substitutions.
What are you doing?
Somewhere, just a little more about rugby. Somewhere in the 80s, the culture of the game started to change a little bit. There was a large fraternity influence into rugby, and things started getting a little stranger, and that's where all the nicknames came into it and stuff. In our day, we didn't give people nicknames. At some point, they earned it by their own actions and something stupid they'd do at a party, or
Shithead!
Yeah, but they sort of fraternity influence kind of took it in a different direction. The game now is, there's very few, and some of the older guys will be surprised to hear this. There's very few socials for the college teams after the games, because many of them, fault. Many are required to take school-sponsored transportation, which requires them to leave the match immediately afterwards and go home. So the culture has changed a little bit. We were very fortunate when we were younger to be able to, drinking age was 18, of course, to be able to do what we did and have the fun we had.
Hell yeah.
The relationships we established with the other teams.
Yep.
18.
Corner races and yeah.
Elephant walk.
Toronto.
When I first started coaching rugby at UB, I went to a rugby game because our good friend Paul Russo was a referee, was refereeing their game, and I was actually for a year there I was the public address announcer for UB football, so I was at the football game doing that. Paulie refereed, and I went to the party afterwards because Paulie was there. And the UB guys come up to me and say, hey, we need a coach. Would you be interested? And I said, well, going through custody with the kids, and I just don't know how much time I have and stuff like that. And I said, I'm not sure. But at the same time that was going on, they were playing Cortland, and the Cortland guys were doing an alouette. An alouette was where they would select a female from the crowd, and they would sing this rugby song to her. If it's done tastefully, if Marty Lesh is doing it or somebody, it can be very tasteful and fun, but of course the guys didn't want it to be tasteful at all. And of course this girl was really struggling with it, and I was talking with Charlie Shabetta, and he was, Charlie was saying, would you come and coach? I said, Charlie, why would I want to coach? I said, this is your party, this is your bar, and that's a girl you go to school with, and these guys are, making a fool out of her. I said, why would I want to coach this? He goes, well, what should I do? I said, I don't think I have to tell you. So Charlie immediately got up, walked over there, got the girl, grabbed her, brought her away. The Cortland guys were like, oh shit, what do we do? We're in trouble now. And they all ran away and left, right? Well, they did come back and elephant walk, which was their thing back then. But so anyway,
Think about it, Hodge. Think about it, Hodge. You'll figure it out.
I pointed across to him, so I said, okay, I'll give you guys 1 day a week. And that year I coached them 1 day, 2 days a week, and they came out of a losing season and made it to a playoff match in Brockport and lost on a penalty kick at the end of the game from the sideline that was made by Danny Kennedy from Old Blue and U.S. Eagles. And so it was a successful season.
Rod's
so the next
face is
season,
priceless.
next
Watch
fall,
Rod's
I said,
face right
we'd
now.
like
You
you to
see
coach again. And I said, okay, but now it's on my terms. And they said, all right, what's that mean? I said, I got 2 rules, and 2 rules only. No swearing and no drinking on Friday nights. And they go, what do you mean no drinking on Friday nights? We've always drank on Friday nights. I said, well, if you're going to drink on Friday nights, you don't need a coach. You can have the best coach in the world, but what's the point? And they said, well, and I said, what about the swearing? I said, I'm not from a generation where we swear. I said, I don't want to be on the sideline at a rugby game when your little brother's there, your grandmother, a school administrator, something, and somebody's screaming, douche the motherfucker. I said, I don't see it. So they said, well, how do you stop that? I said, it's not a question of stopping, it's a question of having that in your mind. And so
Never
when I
a
was
problem, young. Go
swear,
queef.
I wouldn't pick them out, I would just go, like that. And so they kind of got it. And now the teams have gotten even better with, they don't drink on Thursday nights because we've learned something. You drink on Thursday night. Friday is not your recovery day. Friday is your hangover day. Saturday is your recovery day, and that's the day you're trying to play the game. So things have gotten a little better in that regard. Just one thing real quick about the swearing. My dad, my uncle, 2 rough and tough guys, never swore in front of us. They decorated veterans and as tough as they can, and they never swore, and that's what I learned up. But excuse me 1 second while I say this. Fuck you, Bear. Good. All right. I'm closing here now. So, last thing is you talk about wanting to. I always believe I never called guys by their nicknames. I wanted to know who they were. I wanted them to know that I knew who they were. And I believe there needs to be a level of dignity and integrity in the game. And I don't know if this is a Vince Lombardi quote or not, but I heard this a long time ago, and I like it. And it was something to the effect that when you get a new player, you treat them with dignity and integrity, not because they have it, but because you do, you know, just a couple other things. It was a great to be able to coach my son Mike and have him on the field for a bunch of years and play. Eddie Berry's come all the way from South Carolina, an old rugby mate from many, many years ago. I really appreciate that. You know, we had some brothers play, and Chili played for a bunch of years, and Fitz is here. You know, Fitz played later, and so it's kind of cool. I know that there's some people here I'd like to thank that I probably forgot. I want to acknowledge the UB guys that are here tonight, the current team. Thank you, and tough game today. It was a great rugby game, a tough match. UB plays Binghamton tomorrow at 1 o'clock over at UB. There's a couple other, you know, all the coaches that are here. There's quite a few in the room. Thank you. I don't dislike referees, I just don't like them.
We got John McTide.
I also want to, Fred didn't make it tonight. Mike McNerney. Mike is one of my rugby confidants and gurus. Whether it was when Mike was working with us or whether it was me needing that phone call on a Thursday night to say, hey Mike, you know, I want to fix this problem. What do you do? Mike is my expert to go to when I need rugby, and I thank Mike for all his candidness and Jerry Wojcik, you know, former player. Wojcik's was with me for a few years and is still on the UB coaching staff, and it's great to see that. Mike Hodgins is now coaching UB. And this is a true story. And he threw a card in there about me being in a fight, and I don't believe I was either. But Mike was the New York State president, and I was coaching UB, and we just didn't like each other. You know, we would never talk to each other. Yeah, we would never talk to each other. I'd be at championships, and he's the head of the league, and we'd say boo to each other. Well, my son Mike. And Mike was playing U19s. Mike was like 16 playing for Batavia, and we took the team to Ohio Classic, and I was helping coach the team, and Mike, the other coaches would go, so Mike came along. So I went down early that day with my son Mike, and then Mike came down with the rest of the team later, and he was with Dominic from Batavia. So we got the team settled into the hotel and got him some pizza and stuff like that. And Mike said, hey, there's a bar across the street. You want to go for a beer? I said, yeah, I'll go for a beer. And so we go over there, and I said, you know, Mike, I got to be honest with you, you know, I never really liked you. And that's a true story. He goes, I got to be honest with you, because I never really liked you either. And I go, well, you were a dirty rugby player. And he goes, no, you were dirty. I go, yeah, you know, so, that's a true story. But that broke the ice, and now Mike and I have been good friends for many years, and also rugby confidants, and go and help each other as much as possible. Again, I know there's a lot of people in here, a lot of coaches. Jerry Hahn is coaching UB women, and his daughter's playing here, and he's done a great job with them. Kevin Wiles and Fred Brissett got a youth program going in Kenmore now for kids like 8 to 12 years old. I mean, there's just so much good stuff going on. Pat Giles and I played with each other, against each other, and coached against each other. Canisius, and thanks Pat for being here. And there's again. So many people I'm going to miss, and I'm sorry if I didn't, but thank you all. I just want to leave this on one note, and you can all please join me in this, but on 3, I think we should all say, fuck you, Bear, okay? 1, 2, 3. Fuck you, Bear!
Unfortunately, this wasn't it.
You got 10 minutes.
Okay, Mickey, Morgan. This is for the 50-50 ticket, guys.
I don't know, 50 is like a lot of money for drink.
Yeah, it is.
All right, somebody got here early. 753004.
I said it right on the TV.
Hey!
Mike. You guys think great thing when you're done. What?